English 101. Welcome. I hope you have brought an apple for me. My name is Eunha Jung. I have a PhD in linguistics and I will be your instructor. My name Eunha is a Korean name which makes it a little difficult for you to pronounce. The vowel sound over here does not exist in English. The easiest way to learn to say my name correctly is if you were to imagine yourself being punched in the stomach, you'd probably make a noise like uh, and that's that sound. And then you put the rest of it together, so unha. And you're thinking, oh great, English has always given me a headache. Now it's a pain in the gut as well. But does it have to be? I don't think so. In fact, in reality, it can be more like this kid. I can do it. And the reason that I'm saying this, it's because, it's like a late night infomercial. If I can do it, you can do it. I did not grow up with English. I didn't really come to this country until I was 24, which was way past the age when one can comfortably and easily learn a foreign language. But what I do have to make up for that is enthusiasm and love for English. So, I mean, this is okay, I might be a little obsessed, but for example, if when I heard the term catch 22, I actually had to read an entire book of Catch 22. I tell you, it wasn't an easy book to read. It's a terrific book, but the first 5 chapters were impossible to get through. But it was well worth the read because now I have a full grasp of the phrase Catch 22. So I hope my enthusiasm for English and writing will rub off on you. After all, learning something from somebody is sort of like learning how to play a game from an older kid. And I am that older kid, and you're this little kid. Chances are you're littler. I mean, younger than me. So let's do it. The textbook is The Curious Writer. The word curious is the key word. It's very important. Everybody is curious when he or she is young. Remember the days when you would just drive your mother nuts by asking a question after question? And but unfortunately, the curiosity kind of is beaten out of you by the time you get to college. It's sort of like, sometimes, very often, unfortunately, love goes to marriage to die. Spirituality goes to church or temple or whatever um, place of worship to die. And the joy of learning, too, comes to school to die. I've seen it happen over and over again. And in fact, the same thing happened to me. I was a curious child, but then I got punished for asking questions in junior high. You know what happens to a kid like that? The kid becomes a cynic. And I was a cynic for a long time. I just played the school game, and I played the school game very well. But there was no real heart in it. So it was a bit of actually a huge culture shock when I first came here, and my professor in graduate school said, ask any questions and question everything. And one day, a classmate of mine, an American girl, and she said, I read this, but I don't agree with the author. And it was such a shock. Like, okay, how can you not agree with what's written in the book? Anything that's worthy of being printed is the truth. And your job as a student is to read it. And if you don't understand it the first time, you read it, read it, read it, read it again until you get it. And then you memorize the whole thing and regurgitate the whole thing on test paper. That was the game that I played. So this, like, the possibility of a student not agreeing with the author's opinion just was very, very shocking. But that's the kind of mentality that you should have to become a really good learner in any context. And Bruce, the author of the textbook, he actually sets the right tone for that kind of approach. In fact, a couple of years ago, I went to Home Depot and ran into a former student of mine. I was there with my boyfriend, and it was great because Crystal saw me And she said, "Man, your class changed my life." And then she turned around and she said, "Bruce changed my life." I don't remember if she remembered my name, but she certainly remembered Bruce's name. And the reason that she remembered Bruce's name was because Bruce spoke to her like he came from the same place where she was when before she started taking 101. And I think Bruce too was a struggling writer and struggling student, but he somehow learned to relax, and he eventually lost the fear of writing, and then he's preaching the same thing. People, no reason to be fearful of writing. Writing is a fantastic process, but if you have this, I mean, this naturally, you know why this happens, because we rarely write. And when we write in school, it's always your writing gets judged. So you've rarely had a really good experience. And I think that's it. So he's saying, you should allow yourself to write badly, at least in the initial stage of writing. And if you go through that process, and the process, the messier, the better. You produce a lot. It's almost like you dive into the sea and then just gather everything you can see it because the water's murky, you cannot see everything. You don't have time to make everything perfect underwater. You bring the stuff out of the water and then sitting on the sand, you can actually sort things and arrange things beautifully. You can use any kind of analogy. You can use an auto mechanics analogy, you can use a house building analogy, it's all the same thing. Process should be respected as much as the product. Another thing that you have to deal with in this class is this piece called an online class. Online classes are nothing like any classes you have taken on ground. And if you have taken an online class or several online classes, you know what that beast looks like. What you need to succeed in an online class is more than your intellect. Of course, your intellect is needed. You cannot leave it parked in the parking lot when you come into the virtual classroom. But mostly, what's really important is self-discipline, high motivation, and time. A lot of time. Also, time management skills, support, moral support, financial support will be nice, but also, your family understanding that this is important to you and you shouldn't be bothered while you work on your stuff. And technology, of course, and computing skills, word processing skills like Microsoft Word. And then if you have never taken online classes, I strongly urge you to take General Studies 97. It's a free class. Sign up right away. And I want you to finish it. You can finish this on ground or online. And at the end of the second week, I want you to send me your certificate that you have completed. And let's get into the technology a little more. High-speed internet, a thumb drive to save everything, and a backup computer because your computer can just go belly up, and it usually happens during the finals week. Believe me. And also a software called Microsoft Word. That's it. And Pages on Apple, that doesn't work with me. Or if there's a discount site where you can get Microsoft Word cheap, or you can get a free program called OpenOffice by going to openoffice.org. And it's 80% compatible, I'd say. And you can get an app for Canvas on your iPhone too, but use this sparingly. Some people, I have seen somebody actually write a paper on the phone. I don't recommend it because paper writing is not like tapping out an email message. It's multidimensional, it's complicated, it's layered. You can't really do it on the app. Save the app, use the app for just checking your fast email really quickly or just checking the due dates for things. Class overview. It's important for you to have an idea as to what the class overall looks like. In the beginning, we're going to do the introduction. You don't even have to get into the textbook yet. You're going to read the syllabus and become familiar with the course resources. And then you start in week 2 in earnest, chapters 1 and 2, and they really delve into the writing and reading process. Once again, the word inquiry curiosity. They're all related. These are important terms. Literacy anecdote. You're going to come up with a paragraph remembering, recalling what kind of processes you went through to become the kind of writer you are, to have become the kind of reader you are. And you're going to have this feedback, given feedback by your peers, and then that's going to be your grade. And then there's a quiz. And then weeks 3 and 4, we're going to devote these weeks to chapter 3, writing a personal essay. Same process. It's cyclical. Happens again. A draft, peer feedback, and then you submit it to me. And this time, combination of these two will give you a grade. And then the personal essay is great because it's your own voice. You don't have to do any external research, but you get to find your own voice. And then we move more externally and look at something more objectively and critically, and that's a review paper, the following unit. And the same thing, the cycle starts again. You write a brainstorm, you write a draft, and then you get feedback, and then you submit it to me. And then during the last unit, it's actually chapters 5, 8, and 9. You're going to write a proposal and research paper. If you have written a research paper, you know how painful it can be. But it can be much, much, much less painful if you really care deeply about the topic you're writing about. So we're going to start this process by watching a movie, and then you're going to write a reaction paper, and that's going to get a very strong reaction from you, and that's going to put a little fire in your belly, right? So that you can be motivated to do the research. And then once again, the cycle begins again. You brainstorm, peer feedback, final submission. At the end of the quarter, you're going to put all these 4 pieces of writing together into your final product, which is portfolio. Once again, these are all processes. So by nature, they're messy. This is a final product. By nature, it's presentable. And you can take the portfolio, kind of like supermodels taking portfolios to agencies. You take the portfolio to your future classes, to your future employers, and they're going to know how well you can write. And the learning system we'll be using is called Canvas, and this is the website, and you're already in it, so I'm not concerned. And this is your dashboard, and this page might look a little different on your computer, but it's basically the same thing. The first thing I want you to do is go to the account, put a picture to your account so that people will become familiar with you, put an avatar, personalize it a little bit, and then come back out here and we have home, announcements, grades, files, syllabus, blah, blah, blah. But here, this is the home, and every time you go home, you will have different units. So the first unit is start here, and then week 1. Every time a new unit starts, I want you to go to the to-do list and look at everything there. And it's very important for you to do the tasks there in a timely manner. If you don't do that, and if you just look at the calendar and say, oh, there's a personal paper due, let me write it. You don't know what a personal essay should look like. You haven't done any basic background exercises to become familiar with the format and to generate ideas and go through the process. And you might be able to whip out a paper, but I tell you, it's not going to be a very good paper. So don't go with the due dates, go with the to-do list always. One other thing that I really strongly encourage you that you use is this Ask a Librarian button. And it's just awesome. Reference librarians are highly trained researchers of information. So whenever you need research help, you ask them. And not only are these people helpful and knowledgeable, but many of them have like obsessive compulsive streak in them. So if they cannot find information, they themselves get irritated. So if you kind of manipulate the situation very well, they might actually do a lot of research for you. And they are available 24/7. During the OC open hours, OC librarians are available. At other times, librarians, university librarians from all over the US are available. They take turns, they don't go to sleep. And Canvas helps. So take advantage of these things. And once again, do not go with the calendar-based approach. Go with a to-do list. So what's expected? Basically four things. Journaling, that's the process. I'm going to give you textbook exercises to complete, and you're going to do brainstorming, drafts, research notes for each of your papers. And by nature, this is the writing badly part. It's messy. Don't worry about me, judging your grammar or punctuation, because I won't be. Just write without censoring. Produce a lot though. Make it messy. The messier the better. And finally, at the end, though, you have to put together almost a book portfolio. Look at this room from here to here. That's the process. And the product has to be beautiful. And the product will consist of the cover letter, where you argue for a grade that you deserve, table of contents, and 4 pieces of writing you will have done at the end of by the end of the quarter. And the quizzes, 3 quizzes and discussions. Each week there are a couple of discussions. Usually I do not participate because I don't want you to feel like I'm a big brother or a big sister hovering over you. You can talk about all the class related things here openly. And 3 entries for each discussion. So it can be you start a new thread and give 2 replies, or 2 posts and 1 reply, or multiple replies. Okay? So how to ace the class? Before I give you tips, I need to show you 2 models of evaluation. There is the norm-based approach and the criterion-based. Norm-based is basically you're judged against other people. Even if everybody does really well, some people are going to fail, some people are going to score really low, which I think is a ridiculous model. I don't do that. The opposing view is this criterion-based, which is a set of criteria that I give you in the beginning of the semester, which is, in this class, learning outcomes in the syllabus. If you meet these outcomes to a satisfying degree, everybody can get an A. So resulting in a ceiling effect. Everybody gets an A, which is fine. I'm not going to get in trouble. So you should strive for that. I've never seen that happen, but who's to say it's not going to happen? So the tips: log in regularly. Intellect has less to do with it than persistence. So log in regularly. I'm talking about 3 times a week at least. Do not procrastinate. I am like the world's worst procrastinator. Or is it the best procrastinator? The most notorious anyway. And I have to tell you, at my age, I've always postponed things until tomorrow, and I ran out of tomorrows. So at this rate, I won't be able to finish anything. So you need to actually do today's work today. Okay, I'm gonna start doing that. That's my New Year's resolution too. Participate, concentrate. My New Year's resolution this year is do one thing at a time. As I get older, my New Year's resolutions become simpler and simpler. 2 years ago, it was breathe. Just a year ago, it was drink water. Yeah. And this year, it's do one thing at a time. Multitasking sounds fantastic, but very few people can multitask. In fact, we don't even multitask. You think you're multitasking, it's actually your attention being divided into microseconds. And, you cannot produce a good product if you do not concentrate. But you know what? Does it sound like a pain? I mean, it could be, but if you have the right attitude and this can-do attitude of that little kid, you will have a lot of fun. So enjoy. This could be you. Let's do it.